Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Bob. I'm an IT and cybersecurity educator and security researcher, as well as a content creator. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about a educational product on Hack the Box called Pro Labs, and specifically the Dante Pro Lab, because I believe that they're not talked about enough. And they're really amazing. I just got done doing one from start to finish recently. This past month, I finished Dante, and it was quite a learning experience, and it was really unique. And I'm gonna share why. So I'm gonna show my screen real quick. The first thing I really want to show is this picture of this park. Right, I had an idea, or I just had a thought hit me when I was taking my son to the park the other day, and I remembered looking up at the park and just kind of looking at all the obstacles and, the ways you could get to different levels and platforms and the way that slides moved. And I remembered this one particular obstacle of the park that my son used to be scared to go on, right? Because that part of the part, that part of the obstacle was kind of a scary thing. Right, it was not quite stairs, so there wasn't the same support you get when you walk upstairs, and you can hold on to a rail, and there's not always someone right near you, and it's actually doesn't have any guardrails. It's more of these platforms, these circular platforms that are at different elevations that you don't have to quite jump to get to the next one, but you have to extend your leg, right? In many ways, you kind of have to trust in your ability to move higher. And it made me think when I saw him easily do that. It made me remember when he was scared to do it, and when I had to kind of hold on to him and help him along and give him a feel, right, of how to step to the next platform, and that he could do it, and that it was possible. And it made me think of my experience in Dante and how I kind of felt the same. I felt like I was like a kid in the park where there were certain obstacles that I was intimidated by, and there were certain challenges that I didn't think I could do. But until I tried them, they were just scary, and they were something almost in a way that I was hesitant to go after. But one thing I will say about going through Dante in a Hack the Box Pro Lab was that as I ran into those obstacles, and I built the courage and the ability and the mindset to research how to do it, and how to enumerate, and how to exploit, and how to move forward, I found myself building confidence and learning more throughout the process. So as I talk about this, I'm going to talk a little bit about my learning and how it kind of impacted me, and how I believe I grew throughout the process, not just in my technical knowledge, but also in my learning methodology. So hopefully that helped. Let me know in the comments if that park analogy it resonates at all. So let's talk about the logistics a little bit. What is Dante? And I'm not going to read this word for word. I'll just use it as reference. So I'll show you. So Dante, you can get to the Pro Labs by having an Hack the Box account, logging in. You do have to subscribe. So you go to Pro Labs, Dante, and you have to be subscribed to be able to access the lab. But essentially what Dante is a part of Hack the Box's Pro Labs, and a Pro Lab is an enterprise environment. It's or simulated enterprise environment. What does that mean? That means it's built to model an environment that you could very likely come across in the real world. For example, Dante has Active Directory, which is like a Windows domain of systems that are real Windows systems that are joined to a central database called Active Directory, and this is where users and groups and permissions are managed. And so there is a little bit of Active Directory in here. And again, I can't give away solutions because that's against the TOS, and I wouldn't want to spoil it for you. But just to give you an idea of a Pro Lab, you will come across real enterprise technologies. You'll come across things that you could definitely, and I have definitely come across in the industry. So, practically there's 14 machines and 27 flags. The way that you progress in Dante or any Pro Lab on Hack the Box is the same sort of format of any Hack the Box box. And that is, you connect into the environment, which is, it's on its own hosted environment on Hack the Box. Here's the, IP scheme. Again, you can't connect to that unless you're subscribed. You can either connect via VPN, which is, you download your VPN key to your local VM or system that you want to tunnel in from, or you use Pwnbox. I personally am a huge fan of Pwnbox. Very convenient, fun, and just amazing. I'm pretty geeky when I'm using Pwnbox. I'm like, I still can't believe I'm in the browser using a VM. And it's amazing that I'm accessing an enterprise environment, multiple hosts from my browser. I'm still blown away by that, so I do geek out and use Pwnbox, right? I use Pwnbox for a lot of things. Maybe I'll make another video about how I use Pwnbox. But yeah, so that's the gist of it. As you get flags, as you get into systems, you find the vulnerabilities and you exploit them and you move further. You find flags and you paste them here into the interface. And it gives you points, right? So it does add up towards your rank on the platform. And it also adds up towards overall completion, which you get this beautiful completion certificate. And I have to say, because of the challenge and all the learning I had to go through to get through Dante, I really felt proud of the certificate when I saw it, right? Like, I know these certificates and degrees and stuff, they're sometimes just a piece of paper, but this one, it felt earned, and it looks beautiful. I'll show you what it looks like. It's like a really cool, it's artistic. So, you finish them all, and then you unlock that ability to download the certificate after the last flag is submitted. So yeah, that's the kind of the basic gist of what Dante and Hack the Box and Hack the Box Pro Labs are. Some quick thoughts on Pwnbox I shared was I really like it. I think it's amazing. If I came across a tool that I used and I wanted to experiment and it worked for me to attack a box or move further or pivot or something, what happened was I would of course use it from Pwnbox and by downloading it or cloning the repo. But I would also use a local VM, because on Pwnbox you don't really have persistence, meaning, any files you save on Pwnbox, any files or any things you download or install is not going to stay there. And that's a security precaution, so I'm not recommending that there's ever a persistence mechanism for Pwnbox, because I like that, honestly. I like to be able to connect and try some things and have the confidence that, when I terminate my session on that Pwnbox, everything's gone, right? That's a good thing to me. But if I want to save stuff, I'm going to save it somewhere that, a system I own on a VM or on my PC, like notes, or and I'll talk about notes, but as you progress, you want to take notes and where you're at. That's how you save your progress, is you take notes. You want that to be somewhere that's persistent. But, for Pwnbox, I love to be able to experiment and do security research from it on Hack the Box's boxes. And yeah, it's great. Try it out if you've never tried it. Lessons learned. So other than the ones I've shared, I have learned a ton. This video could be an hour. I'm going to try to keep it much less than that. But here are the main ones I could think of when I was writing this. One, again, and this is a reminder, but I have to say it over and over again to myself and others, hands-on learning is by far the best way to learn in this field, right? Because, the things that we're reading in the books, the things we're watching on videos, yes, they're helpful, but that's like a passive learning approach. You've absorbed it, it's possible, but to truly, commit it to your memory, and for it to become muscle memory, where, you sit at a keyboard and you can do it, you've got to do it, right? You actually have to try to attack the system. You have to mess around with the tools. Honestly, you have to make mistakes, right? For my son, going back to the park analogy, to get a feel for how to climb up those or how to ascend the platforms per se at the park, he had to get a feel for it, right? Now, what if I just gave him a whole bunch of books and had him watch a whole bunch of videos about climbing up obstacles on the park? Maybe he would know that it was possible and there would be some help there, but I don't think he would just be able to go out there and do it, first try seamlessly. He has to try. He honestly has to fail. And again, I have to say, failure is not failure if you let it stay there. If you quit, I'll say failure is not failure if you quit. Failure is failure. Failure is a win because you'll learn from it. So if you choose to, okay, I'm going to keep going. Even though this didn't work this session, I'm going to keep going. For example, when I was doing Dante, there were plenty of days where I just fell flat. And I was mad. I was like, as funny as that looked, I was like mad at myself. I was pulling my hair out. I might have let a cuss word or two fly, but I put it down, and I actually lived with the problem. So have you ever lived with a problem, especially in IT and cybersecurity? Some problems will haunt you, and you're just sitting on the couch, and maybe you're doing something, you're hanging out with the family, and you're just living with that problem. And for me, there was a point in the lab, I will say, where I had to do some creative pivoting. And I was sitting there and I was using my resources. So there were those times, honestly, where I just had to let the Pro Lab live with me a little bit and the issue I was facing. And I would be on my phone or my iPad scrolling and reading and messaging people and asking about that subject. And eventually, I hit a point where I'm like, I'm going to try that, and I would get excited and I'd be like waiting for people to go to bed and be like, all right, I'm going to go back and work on it, and go and start getting back in the mode and in the zone of studying and researching. And eventually I was able to find out how to progress. And that was not because I was just so brilliant naturally and just it came so easy to me. It honestly was because I lived with it. I let it haunt me and I didn't give up and I overcame it. So I recommend, if you do in any of your learning, getting a job, doing any of these certifications that are practical or the multiple choice ones, just keep trying, right? Keep going for it and keep trying different things. Eventually you can only succeed, right? I mean, that's the only option if you never give up. So number 2, take good notes so you don't need to intentionally memorize everything, right? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't sit there when I learn about a new tool like Nmap or, Metasploit framework or, there's tons of them I could list. Impacket, I'm just thinking of things I've used a lot is, I didn't sit there and just read the source code of every tool that I've ever used and just memorize and learn exactly what every single one of them is doing. I understand the basic functionality and what it's like, traffic it's generating and stuff honestly from learning on sites like Hack the Box Academy, watching YouTube videos, talking with people. What's your experience with this tool? How do you do this thing with it? Blogs, let's shout out to all the people that have a blog out there and in cybersecurity, especially. You're kind of propping the industry up in terms of knowledge, just in general, just people relying on each other's knowledge is such a huge and amazing thing about this field. But when it comes to this Pro Lab, what I recommend is take notes, maybe not even in a like you're writing a book. You don't have to write a book, but you take them as if you're saving your progress, right? Like there were so many times in the process of Dante that I had to improve my note-taking process, because I would come back and I would look at my notes and I'm like, who wrote these notes? These are terrible notes. And I was like, laughing at myself, really. Like, I wrote those notes. So I had to keep writing better notes for myself. And as I did that, I got better at, writing notes for other people. So I recommend when you take notes, take your notes intentionally and with the quality that enough to consider if someone else were to read this, would it be helpful, right? So what I would do is after I've completed something, or I was stopping for the day or the night on a box or something, I would write down, this is the last thing I did, right? So I would say I got the flag on such and such, and the next thing I want to try is to, I don't know, pivot by trying to pass the hash with evil win RM or something. And I just used some tools that I learned about. But I would type that. Any tools I learned about, links to those tools in my notes. And just, they don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect again, but it does have to be enough for you to understand where you were. Think about it as like in a video game. If you were playing Skyrim or Fallout, you're going to save, right? I know sometimes it has autosave, but you're going to save your progress. I'm one that if I'm in Skyrim or one of those RPGs, I'm like, I know it autosaved, but I can't remember what the last thing it autosaved on. So I'm just going to manually save to make sure. So like that's how you save your progress and your learning is you take notes. So pivoting is amazing. And this is just me dorking out. My background is in networking. That's how I really got kind of into IT and interested in IT was through networking, and I got passionate about it. And eventually I started teaching at a Cisco network academy. And that's like been my passion within that's my subject, right? I love that. And I did not understand pivoting like I thought I would, right? I was downright mad at myself. I was looking at trying to pivot to different systems, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I understand networking. I do. I promise I do. I'm like arguing with myself. And I had to reach a point where I'm like, I don't understand pivoting though. I need to have a better understanding of pivoting. But as a result of my understanding of networking, it did make more sense what pivoting was. So there was less of a learning curve for pivoting, but I will say that pivoting was something I didn't know as good as I thought I would when I first started learning it. So I even went so far as to at some point mentally I was almost blaming the lab too. I was like, I feel like this lab is not right. Something's broke. Some service isn't starting. But the truth of the matter was the way I was trying to reach a target, I'll say that, was not the best way. I will say the shell that I was trying to get back, it wasn't getting back to my pwn box. And so what I started doing is drawing, it was drawing these diagrams and what I think the lab looks like and the way things are connected. And I did that using a tool called draw.io. It's free tool. It's at this link here, apps.diagrams.net. And I'll put the links in the description as well. The other thing is I learned leave no stone unturned. So there were systems I got on that I got so focused on. So first of all, when you get a shell, which means you get a command line session onto a target, there's just a rush. You get a rush. You're like, this is amazing. I just got a shell. There's nothing better than this, right? It's just it's a great feeling. And I wanted that feeling again. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and get to that next box. And what would happen is when I got stuck in that mindset, I would overlook things. Like I would overlook details. So I was being so focused on the next box and getting a shell on that next box that I missed some of the things I needed to do in what's called post-exploitation. So what do you do after you've exploited the machine and you're on it? And, looking around on the system, pillaging, looking for different files, credentials. I had to build that methodology and that mindset as I was going. And another thing that helped with this was on Hack the Box Academy, there's a global search feature, which all their modules, which if you never heard of Academy, it's like Hack the Box is, their curriculum. And they have like multiple learning modules and courses, and they're all written and guided. They also have a global search feature. So if I had read a module that was particularly beneficial and I knew had some commands and stuff, but I couldn't quite remember them and didn't have them in my notes, I would search using keywords in the global search, and I would just pull up a page or a section in the module, and it would help me. So with that. But the leave no stone unturned thing was me, I had to develop the mindset that there might be something on this system, a file somewhere that could help me progress further. And this is true in real life too. We see some of the recent breaches that have occurred, and a hacker found credentials on an open share that allowed them to get access to other systems, sometimes even getting domain access. So very realistic in that sense, that you have to be detail oriented, right? So that's one thing, was leave no stone unturned. 5, Pro Labs are good professional experience. I say professional because Pro Lab, professional. And by the way, this is the certification. It looks beautiful, right? You got the quick draw McGraw there, pulling, shooting out Ethernet cables, and it's just a premium looking cert. Put your name on it and everything. And but the thing I found out, and I've done live streams too, is when I talk about my experience with the Dante, I have so much to talk about, right? Like if you're someone who's like leading a pen test shop, you're a manager, you're a hiring manager, you're a red teamer, you can talk to people about your experience doing this, right? Versus just having terminology. And I'm just comparing it to like a multiple choice thing. The multiple choice stuff's great for like an overview, but when you're in an interview, if you're trying to get a job, you're able, if you go through like a Pro Lab or one of Hack the Box's, they've recently released actual certifications. You're getting hands-on experience that you can have a conversation about. Like, this is what I struggle with. These are my weak points. I really love this. Like I told you, I really love pivoting, especially I will say using Metasploit's SOX proxy module and managing interpreter sessions and auto route. That's really cool. I really like that. And I know other tools have it, but I really like that kind of C2 style of pivoting. But that's some stuff that you can talk about with some degree of confidence that you've tried it, you've experimented with it, and not just taking a multiple choice test on it. So that's just something I'm big on these days, is practical hands-on. I also did a live stream recently where I was talking with a viewer who they were talking about, for example, there's another Pro Lab that I want to do next called the Offshore. It's very Active Directory heavy, and this person mentioned when you finish he said that when you finish Offshore, you're ready to work on my team. And what that resonated with me, because as an instructor, I'm thinking, job opportunities for my students, people out there that are watching videos. Think about that. There are some hiring managers out there leading penetration testing, organizations that do penetration testing services for companies that are looking at these Hack the Box credentials, the Pro Labs, as well as the certifications. And they're strongly considering candidates because of that. So it's able to help you stand out, on your resume, right? So that's what I mean by professional experience, because it is good experience. Of course you can I put this on my resume and I explain what it is, because there's still some people that don't know what the Pro Labs are, but you can explain briefly what it is. And, more importantly, you are given something you can talk about, right? Some experience. All right. So that's pretty much what I have on it in a nutshell. There's some useful resources that I'm going to share, that I can share with you that help me with Dante. Those are Hack Tricks. If you've never heard of Hack Tricks, it's a great site that's maintained by Carlos Polop, and it's some tips and tricks on certain attack methods for multiple different systems, Mac, Windows, Active Directory, Linux, the cloud, payload, all the things. I always found myself going back here trying to get reverse shell one-liners and things. So this is one. There's a really great video that Hack the Box actually put together. Plain Text, he's an awesome, very talented individual, on pivoting. Pivoting can be a complex subject. In this video, he does like a live demonstration of it, and it's free on YouTube. So, some of these sites, Pivoting with Chisel, Tunneling with Chisel by OXDF. Like, so all these are on my site. I'm not going to cover every single one of them. ippsec, obviously, if you don't watch ippsec, you got to check him out. He's always doing retired boxes. I think he releases a video once a week. Check him out. So those are the free ones. Again, the Hack the Box Discord channel, gold. You got to get in there on the Dante channel if you're doing Dante, and you got to, ask questions. Now, don't try to get all the answers, because that's going to, that's not going to be good for your learning. But, if you get truly stuck and you need a nudge in the right direction, that's the place to go. Paid resources, I just have to recommend Hack the Box Academy. They have modules, they have job role paths, they now have certifications, and it's just overall great for your career and your learning. But also specifically for Dante, as you go through, I would recommend the penetration tester pathway. As you go through these modules, you can even pick and choose based on what you run into on Dante, which ones you kind of want to explore. And when you do the lab, you'll get a feel for your gaps, right? It'll expose you. You'll be like, oh, okay. And that's what I was saying about pivoting earlier, was like, I almost had to just humble myself and be like, okay, I don't understand pivoting. And from that mindset, search and look for your resources. For example, there's a module, pivoting, tunneling, and port forwarding. You go into that module and you learn about it. You could go to websites, some of the ones I've linked, some you'll find. If you have good resources, share them. And you'll learn your way through it, right? And that's the big part about it, is learning your way through it. So these are the resources I have. I hope this has been a helpful talk and video. If you have any questions, or you have any further thoughts you want to add to help other people, put it down in the comments. Other than that, everyone have a great day, week, night, morning, wherever you're at. And don't forget to keep learning.